A new fault, born, right now, underneath one of the most densely populated volcanic areas on Earth. And scientists are in shock, not because they didn't know Campi Flegrei was dangerous. They've known that for decades. But because what they just found changes everything about how dangerous it actually is. This isn't a dormant old crack that's been sitting there for thousands of years. This is a fault that is being born during the current unrest, growing, right now, underneath 500,000 people. And further in this video, I'm going to explain why this discovery, published in the prestigious journal Communications, Earth and Environment, is keeping scientists up at night. So let's start with where we are. Campi Flegrei, the Phlegrean Fields, just west of Naples, Italy. One of the most watched volcanic systems on the planet. It has a diameter of about 12 kilometers, that's roughly 7.5 miles, and it extends to the west of Naples. It is home to approximately 900,000 residents. 900,000 people living on top of an active caldera, and the ground beneath them, it is not sitting still. Since 2005, the ground has been rising again, up by 4.6 feet in total, and the rate at which it's swelling is getting faster. 4.6 feet of ground rise, that's not a small number, guys. That's enormous. Giovanni Macedonio, the director of the National Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology in Naples, said, "Two of the most recent earthquakes are the strongest we've ever seen." The strongest they've ever seen, his exact words, and he runs the institute that monitors this volcano. Since 2005, the ground has uplifted by approximately 1.4 meters, that's 4.6 feet, and earthquakes of increasing intensity have followed, reaching a magnitude of 4.6 on June 30th, 2025. The strongest earthquake ever recorded at Campi Flegrei. And that was just last year. As recently as April 8th, 2026, just days ago, a magnitude 3.4 earthquake struck 12 kilometers west of Naples. This is happening as we speak. Fresh from the earth, I'm on the pulse for you. Between February 23rd and March 1st, 2026, monitoring stations recorded a peak of approximately 70 earthquakes in the Campi Flegrei area, with magnitudes up to 3.5. Many concentrated beneath the Pozzuoli Agnano zone, 70 earthquakes in 1 week, in a city, beneath people's homes. And I haven't even told you the most alarming part yet. Before we get there, can you do me a favor? Give this video an early like and a hype. Share it with someone, leave a comment below. It doesn't cost you a thing, but it helps me keep staying on the pulse of this stuff for you. All right, now let's talk about what is actually new here, because scientists have been watching Campi Flegrei for a long time, since the 1950s. They've tracked the bradyseism, the slow rising and sinking of the ground. They've tracked the earthquakes, they've tracked the gas emissions, but there was always one thing they couldn't see clearly: the internal structure. Where exactly was the ground breaking? What faults were forming? Where was the stress concentrating? Until now, a new study published in Communications, Earth and Environment, part of the Nature Group, by researchers from the University of Roma Tre and Italy's National Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology, concluded it is no longer just bradyseism. It is the birth and reactivation of a real fault. The birth of a real fault. Let me explain what that means, because bradyseism, the slow ground movement, is something people here have lived with for centuries. It rises, it falls, it shakes a little. People know it. They've adapted to it. But a fault forming? That is different. A fault is a fracture in the Earth's crust where two blocks of rock grind against each other. And a fault that is actively growing, being born right now, under a volcanic caldera. That is a new layer of danger. The study analyzed an enormous amount of seismic data and found that since 2023, the situation has clearly accelerated. Earthquakes have become stronger, more frequent, and more concentrated in a specific area. The signature of an active, growing fault structure. More concentrated. That word matters. When earthquakes scatter randomly, it often means fluids or pressure moving through fractured rock. When they concentrate in a specific zone and line up, that is a fault. Forming. Growing along a defined plane. And separately, and this is incredible, guys, a team at Stanford University did something that nobody had managed to do before. They pointed artificial intelligence at the seismic data from Campi Flegrei. And what the AI found left Italian scientists speechless. Traditional monitoring methods had documented around 12,000 earthquakes at Campi Flegrei between 2022 and mid-2025. But when the AI analyzed the same data, it found over 54,000 earthquakes. 54,000. The actual number was more than 4 times higher than what anyone knew. 3 out of every 4 earthquakes here had been going completely undetected. Think about that. Every time you thought Campi Flegrei shook once, it had actually shaken 4 times. Lead researcher Xing Tan, a geophysics PhD student at Stanford, said, "Our Italian colleagues were surprised to see the ring so clearly. They expected to see something in the south where previous data had revealed scattered seismicity, but in the north, they'd never seen it so clearly. They had never seen it in the north, which means the northern part of the caldera, an area that was previously considered relatively quiet, is now being revealed as actively breaking, actively fracturing. The AI revealed a sharply defined caldera ring fault system, a circular fracture that outlines the collapsed volcanic basin, and clearly illuminated previously unknown faults in the northern part of the caldera. A ring fault. Think about what that means geometrically. Imagine a circle drawn around the caldera. Now imagine that circle is a fracture in the Earth's crust, a fault that encircles the entire uplifting zone, and the ground inside that ring is being pushed upward from below by pressurized fluids, steam, and gases rising from a degassing magma source deep beneath. The ring fault alignment suggests that any future bursts of shaking may circle the uplifted zone, concentrating energy around the most densely populated part of the caldera, around the most densely populated part, not randomly distributed, focused, concentrated, in a ring around where people live. Now let me tell you what's underneath the town of Pozzuoli specifically, because this is where it gets very serious. The AI mapping revealed 2 long faults converging directly beneath Pozzuoli, a densely built, inhabited city west of Naples. The convergence of these faults in a shallow zone, less than 4 kilometers deep, adds a significant layer of complexity. 2 faults converging beneath the city, less than 4 kilometers, about 2.5 miles beneath the surface. Stanford geophysics professor William Ellsworth said, "These long faults suggest that an earthquake in the magnitude 5 range is not out of the question. We've known that this is a risky place for a long time, since the 80s when part of the city was evacuated, and now we're seeing for the first time the geologic structures that are responsible." For the first time. A magnitude 5 is now in the official conversation, not just a magnitude 4 or 4.6. Magnitude 5 at 2.5 miles depth, directly beneath a populated city. I have to say, when I read that, I had to go back and read it a second time, because this is not a theoretical paper speculating about what might exist. This is an AI analyzing 54,000 real earthquakes, and the picture they painted is not ambiguous. Let me tell you something about what a magnitude 5 means here, because in some places a magnitude 5 is an inconvenience, shakes the shelves, scares people. But at Campi Flegrei, reference earthquake magnitude for this zone is estimated in the range of 4.4 to 5.1, based on fault mapping, geomorphological analysis, and stress calculations. Researchers concluded this range is large enough to exceed design ground motion thresholds for existing buildings, exceed the design thresholds, meaning buildings here were not built to withstand what this fault system could now produce, and it gets deeper than that, literally. A separate international research team from the GFZ Helmholtz Center for Geosciences in Germany found something else, something that had never been observed at Campi Flegrei before. The study provided the first ever evidence of very long period seismic signals at Campi Flegrei, resonance-like pulses lasting 60 to 90 seconds with a dominant frequency of 0.11 Hz, observed beneath the CO2 emissions at Solfatara since 2018. Very long period signals, 60 to 90 seconds of tremor, coming from beneath Solfatara, the famous fumarole field in the heart of Pozzuoli. Researchers interpret these VLP signals as the resonance of one or more fluid-filled, crack-like structures connecting the deep deformation source with the fumarolic vents at the surface. So beneath Solfatara, the steaming, hissing crater that tourists walk up to every year, there is a crack-like structure filled with pressurized fluid connecting the deep magma source to the surface, a fluid-filled conduit, pulsing, every minute and a half, like a heartbeat. And nobody had ever detected this before. Now let me address the question everyone is thinking right now. Does this mean Campi Flegrei is about to erupt? I have to be honest with you here. Study authors, including Stanford's Barroza, stated all the analyzed seismicity from 2022 to mid-2025 is shallow, at depths above 4 kilometers, and does not indicate any migration of magma towards the surface. So as of the most recent data, no upward migration of magma. That is important. That reduces the short-term eruption concern. But, and this is critical, the absence of magma migration right now does not mean the system is safe. It means the system is being stressed by pressurized hydrothermal fluids, hot water, steam, carbon dioxide, rising through fractured rock. And that process, it is the very process that is growing this new fault. Researchers found that pressure buildup from water and vapor in the geothermal reservoir under Campi Flegrei can lead to earthquakes when the system becomes sufficiently stressed, and suggested that managing water runoff or lowering groundwater levels could potentially reduce this fluid pressure. So the process driving the earthquakes and growing this fault, it is water, steam, geothermal fluid, not magma, not yet. But here's the thing that I keep coming back to. Italy's Civil Protection Commission confirmed that scientific findings provide additional evidence of deep-seated magma as the root cause of the current bradyseismic crisis, while also confirming the current alert level remains yellow, not red. Deep-seated magma confirmed as the root cause. Alert level, yellow. Yellow means watch. Yellow means be ready. Yellow means we are not at green anymore. And I want to walk you through what this ground has actually done since 2005 because I did a little research. By the end of June 2025, the maximum total uplift measured at Rione Terra in Pozzuoli, the point of maximum caldera deformation, had reached approximately 148 centimeters, about 4.9 feet, of which around 29.5 centimeters, nearly a foot, had occurred just since January 2024. Nearly a foot of ground rise in just 18 months, and the rate is accelerating. Since April 2025, the average uplift has been holding near 15 millimeters per month, about 0.6 inches every single month, every month. Still rising, still accelerating. At the old port in Pozzuoli, boats now stand nestled in long grass, marooned on new land that has risen out of the sea. Ancient Roman columns have fossilized mollusks halfway up, showing how they were once underwater. The ground has risen so much that a Roman harbor is now dry land. Ancient columns that were once submerged under the sea are now standing in open air, and the ground is still rising. Now I want you to understand something about the history of this place, because it is deeply relevant. In the 1970s and 1980s, tens of thousands of residents were relocated from Rione Terra, the historic district of Pozzuoli, in forced evacuations by authorities who believed the ground uplift could signal an imminent eruption. Police and military forced people from their homes. Police and military forced evacuations in the 1970s and 1980s because the ground was doing what it's doing right now. The current uplift is now comparable to those crisis levels. The current situation is marked by ground uplifts and earthquakes of a magnitude comparable to those experienced during the bradyseismic crisis of 1982 to 1984, comparable to the crisis that forced mass evacuations 40 years ago. Except now, even more people are living on this caldera than were living there in the 1980s. Can you really feel safe anywhere in the world? That's a question I ask myself sometimes when I look at places like this. And I still don't have a perfect answer. Right now, what authorities and scientists need to watch is this: the growth rate of this new volcanotectonic fault. Is it accelerating? Is the fault lengthening? Is the depth of the seismicity changing? Specifically, are earthquakes starting to appear deeper than 4 kilometers? Because right now, everything stays shallow, above 4 kilometers. The moment seismicity starts migrating deeper, or approaching the magma reservoir at 8 kilometers, that changes the entire conversation. The AI monitoring system is now running in real time. The system that uncovered the hidden ring fault is now operating continuously, watching for new earthquakes and stress shifts across the caldera in near real time. This feeds directly into risk planning for Italy's Civil Protection Agency. Real-time AI watching a real-time caldera. That is where we are in 2026, and Italy's civil protection divides this area into red and yellow zones. Evacuation routes are already planned. The question is whether those plans are being updated fast enough to reflect a new fault, one that didn't officially exist until very recently. Guys, this is not a story about a volcano that might erupt someday far in the future. This is a story about a fault being born right now, in real time, beneath a city of 500,000 people, producing the strongest earthquakes ever recorded there, ground rising faster than it has since the last major crisis, and 54,000 earthquakes that nobody even knew were happening. This is not random bad luck. This is a system under stress, building pulse by pulse, month by month, centimeter by centimeter. If you want to understand more about how supervolcanoes behave, there are more videos here in the end screen. I've also covered the Santorini earthquake swarm earlier this year. Same concerns, same AI tools, different volcano. Check that one out because it links directly to what's happening here. If you want to support this channel, there's a buy me a coffee link in the description. I don't do brand deals. I just keep watching these things so you don't have to watch them alone. Thank you so much, guys. Stay safe. Be aware. Bye-bye.